Hi, Peter Charles here of Hooked for Life Fly Fishing, and today we're going to tie the Blue Doctor. Now this is a very old UK pattern, and in the hairwing version it's been around since the 1950s. So we're going to do the hairwing today, and let's get started looking at the materials. Our hook is a size 6 in a salmon single. You could use larger sizes, but I'm thinking of our East Coast fishery where a lot of the guys like smaller patterns. The thread is an 8/0 Vivus in white. And I'm going to take a moment to just talk about thread. I usually don't talk about particular brands. I don't usually push a brand. However, I do like to use 8/0 thread to avoid building bulk in a lot of these flies, especially the smaller patterns. The trouble is when you're tying a hairwing and you want to really bind it down, usually 8/0 will break on you. And I've had a lot of that going on when I've been doing videos. So since I've been using this Vivus thread, both in black and in white, I'm finding that it's strong enough that I can bind down a hairwing and not have it come apart on me. So that's what we're going to use today as a way of thread, and when it comes to the head, I'll be using a marker to color this white. Now, the benefit of using white, of course, is that when you use white underneath a light colored floss, it doesn't change the color of the floss when it gets wet. If I was to use black, this blue-bodied fly would get a muddy blue color. Now our tag is going to be a uni-French oval and a small size in silver. This is also going to be our rib as well. The tail is going to be golden pheasant crest. This one's kind of picked over. I'll have to get some new stuff. The rest of the tag is going to be this bright fluorescent red. The body is this blue floss, which is actually Dr. Blue. So lucky I've been able to find the right one. The throat is this blue saddle hackle. And our wing is gray squirrel. So let's get started. Now we're tying a floss body, so try to be neat with this. Don't leave big gaps if you can avoid it. Stop around the hook point. Now we tie in our tag. Underneath. Let's bring that out of the way. Now we tie in our tail. This is rather old golden pheasant, and it's taken lots of twists, and there are ways to get those twists out. I'll have to do a video on that. But this one's kind of messy, but we'll make use of it anyway. Normally would try to get one that is straight so it doesn't twist on you when you and sort of splay out when you tie it in. We'll do our best not to have it splay. That's pretty good. Now time for the red floss. Bring that out of the way. Okay, now we tie in our rib. You can see my tail is starting to splay a little bit. And now for our floss. Now before I start tying on this floss, I've mentioned in previous videos that I tend to have rather dry skin, and when I'm working with dubbing or working with floss, the skin oils can actually work to your benefit to smooth things down, make things stick, that sort of thing. and it doesn't work with me because my fingers are so dry. Buddy Mike made a suggestion. He said, put a little dubbing wax on your fingers if you have a little bit of dry skin. And now you can smooth that floss down and have it, take the twist out of it. And that's what we're going to do. Now, something else. I've got a relatively thick tag there. If I just made one pass with this floss, it would look rather odd. I'd have this thick tag and then this thin body. I'm going to make 3 passes with the floss to bulk that up. Now, I'm only doing this because I'm going to be putting on a rib. Because if I didn't have a rib on this, over the top of it, the first hit from a fish would trash this body, but the rib will hold it together. So let's start with getting past that bump. Keep working the twist out of it. Interesting thing about the dubbing trick, using the dubbing wax. I've done that many times when I put dubbing on in the past. I never thought to use it for floss. You see we've got that bump there. What we're going to try and do is just come up close to that bump, but not quite go on it. Now you can see, having made 3 passes, maybe not as smooth as it could be, but at least I don't have this big difference between the red floss and the blue body in terms of the thickness. So we make 1 turn of the rib at the back, and then we come forward. Now for the throat. And finally for the wing, we're going to use a hair stacker. You don't want too bulky a wing. This is a small fly. So I'm just going to size it, about the length of the hook shank. When you're tying on hair and you don't want it to move, one of the ways to do is make a loose wrap, then pull up with your thread. And that binds the head down without it spinning on you. So it stays level. It doesn't rotate around the hook shank. Now we're going to do another trick we can do, is using some glue. So this is CA glue. I'm just going to put a little dab. And what that will do is help bind down the hair, stick the hair together, and prevent it from pulling out. Now our last step is to color our white thread. And this fly is supposed to have a red head, so we're going to color the thread. If you had red head cement, you could do the same job with that. The disadvantage of using this method, it tends to build up a little bit of bulk in the head because you're having to make extra wraps to put the red in. Now for a whip finish. Now I want you to notice something. My wing is laying fairly flat. It's not sticking up at a big angle. And I know from an appearance standpoint, a lot of tyers would like their wing up more like that. It shows off the body, it shows off the tail better. But when this goes through the water, if that wing is stuck up at too much of an angle, it will cause the fly to ride through the water sort of in this fashion with a bit of an angle to it. This will penetrate the water and it will go through a lot more cleanly and it will go through level. So I tend to work to get my wings to lay down a little bit more, even though it's not nice fashion. Now the last step is a little bit of head cement. In this case I'm using some UV glue. Okay, there we go, our Blue Doctor. All ready to go fishing. It's a very common and popular Atlantic salmon pattern. And you know, it's an effective little pattern, very popular pattern. Here it is in a hairwing version. And this is a small one, size 6, and you can tie it a lot larger if you wish. Anyway, there you go, the Blue Doctor. Cheers.